Do you guys remember right at the beginning of BT7, we actually built a Black X-Antibody deck? But then we actually got completely smashed by the Cherubimon deck with Purple Hybrid. Well, if you don't remember, that means you haven't watched the Battle of Nick's Adventure series yet, so you should definitely check it out first. Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another new Digimon deck profile and in-depth building guide video. After that battle and suffering the loss, we needed to go back to the drawing board to develop an all-new, better, and stronger build. And finally, we're now ready to show you guys the improved version of the Black X-Antibody. The concept of utilizing Dorugoramon as our main boss Digimon remains the same. Our goal is to create a powerful stack with many very good inheritable effects, but even greater than before. Not only that, we needed more searching and consistency, as I was greatly inspired by one of the decks that topped at Digi-Fest. We needed to make this deck so powerful that it can potentially one-shot all our opponents. If you guys are interested in wanting to learn how to do that as well, and how to play the deck, well, don't worry. Just like as always, we got a combo guide for all of you after the deck profile. So did you guys know that this is only the beginning of Black X-Antibody, as we're going to be getting even more new support in BT8. We actually have Oriomon being introduced to the Digimon TCG, and that archetype is going to synergize so well with Alphamon and the X-Antibody line as a whole. It is going to be even stronger than before as well, and it only makes sense that we're going to be making a video covering that for BT8 as soon as it drops. And if you're just as stoked and just as excited as I am, then definitely subscribe and turn on that notification bell right away so you guys can stay tuned for that video when it comes. Also, don't forget to give this video a like, as it greatly helps with the YouTube algorithm. With that out of the way, let's begin with the deck profile. Alrighty, let's start with the Digi-Eggs. We first off have the 4 copies of Dorugoramon right here. This is basically your X-Antibody Digi-Egg card. And what this card does basically is every time you slide in a Digivolution source underneath one of your Digimon, you basically get to draw a card, which is really good because you're always going to be focusing on doing that in this entire game, the entire game plan when playing this deck. And you only really need 4 copies, simply because we focus so much on one stack usually. We rarely, almost even never get into the 5th egg ever, and we really need the consistency with Dorugoramon right here. So that's why we have the 4 copies only. So now moving to our first rookies, we first off do have the 4 copies of Dorugoramon, which Dorugoramon digivolves into. Just so you guys know, this one on the left is an alt art, but holy, it is so expensive right now. But the artwork on this is just absolutely amazing. Now, this is really important because this card is basically your key searcher. Because on play, you review top 3 cards, you get to add 1 X-Antibody and also 1 Coda, who is your really essential key memory tamer for this deck. It's also really nice because this Digimon does have a inheritable, is very similar. They all do the same things when it comes to inheritables, where if you slide something underneath the Digivolution sources, you basically get to gain a memory here. Similar to Dorugoramon draws you a card, this one gains you a memory, which is fantastic, and doing more extended plays, which is really cool. But however, mainly you want to hard play this most of the time, simply because you can just quickly get the searching going on, which is really important. So that's Dorugoramon. Next up, for other rookies, we have the 4 Tsunarizamons right here. This is very crucial. This is a very good card. Very consistent to pull off its inheritable. While your Digimon is black and it has 13,000 DP or more, it gains security +1, which is really good and really powerful and fantastic. Once again, it has a really good continuous effect where during your turn, all your black Digimon with 13,000 DP or more gain piercing, which is pretty neat. But the most important thing is you always want to be digivolving this into the stack, because getting into 13,000 DP in your top end is just incredibly easy. So 4 Tsunarizamons is 100% must have as well in this deck. Next up, to round off for our rookies, we have 2 Chumons right here, and also 2 Toy Agumons. Now, this can really come to your personal preference. You can actually play more Chumons. You can max it out to 4 if you want, because memory blocking is just really crucial and really important, and in certain matchups, especially when it comes to blue hybrid, and you really want to max out Cherubimon in those cases sometimes. However, I think I opt in for the 2 and 2 because the toy Agumon, on the other hand, can come in handy very nicely with its reboot every now and then, depending on the matchup. And I'll talk a little bit more on the side deck when it comes to siding the different options later on. So that's it for the rookies for now. To the level 4s, beginning with our X-Antibody, we have 4 Dorugoramons right here. Dorugoramon is actually a blocker, a 5k blocker, which is really nice. However, you do require another X-Antibody Digimon on your side of the board in order for it to become blocker. But mostly we really want to utilize its inheritable for the most time, because all turns while this Digimon has X-Antibody in its traits, it gets 1000 DP. And keep in mind, this is all turns and you're always going to be pulling it off, which is really good, and that extra 1000 DP is obviously very handy. Next up, we have 3 Dark Tyrannomons right here. We play this simply because of its cheap Digivolution cost, and also the blocker comes in handy every now and then, which is okay. So yeah, 3 copies right here. And then we have 3 copies of Grumblemon. Grumblemon is really good because it's like basically the Lobomon for black, and you basically get to sometimes, or most of the times, you really want to get into the plays and then do the Lobo for a game, which is really important. I also thought about maybe maxing this to 4 and then taking 1 Dark Tyrannomon out, which is probably to get the consistency of going to play this card for game. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, whether it's better or not. But yeah, that's what I've been thinking about and tested around as well. That'll be all of our level 4s. Now moving to our 5s, we have the X-Antibody once again of the level 5s, which is Dorugoramon. This one is the really good one, really powerful one. When Digivolving, you can place 1 black card with X-Antibody in its traits from your hand to the bottom of this Digimon's sources. Afterwards, it basically prevents it from being able to be deleted by any of your opponent's card effects or DP reduction until the end of your opponent's next turn, offering a great built-in protection, meaning that you can move this out of raising very safely, which is kind of nice because it can't be deleted by card effects. However, it can be deleted by battle, but we mainly play this card simply because of its inheritable once again, because as long as your Digimon has X-Antibody in its traits, it gains security +1. So that's basically what you want to rack up all the time to get those extra security checks. For the other level 5 we have 3 Metal Greymons from BT2. It's very simple. Itself has reboot, and we mainly once again play inheritables. All the cards we really play all the way to level 5 are just basically for inheritables to keep it consistent. Your turn, if your Digimon has reboot, your Digimon also gets security +1. Now, obviously, this is the reason why we play with the toy Agumon, because it does come up every now and then, which is fantastic. So then we get that extra security +1. But then mainly, there's also another spice that we have. I'll showcase you guys later when we get into that for the options, where getting reboot is actually very easy on your top end. So that'll be it for our level 5s. And now let's get into our level 6s, because we of course have to play the 4 copies of Dorugoramon. Once again, for you guys who don't know, the 2 left copies right here is the alt art of it. Gonna show you guys how pretty this card is, because it's absolutely amazing. Huge shout out to my friends for lending me this card for the deck profile. Just want to mention that as well. But just really cool, really powerful, really strong boss monster of your deck, and you have to play the 4 copies of it. It does a whole lot of things. So basically, during your turn, first of all, for each X-Antibody in this Digimon's Digivolution sources, it gains extra 1000 DP. And then also, when attacking, once per turn, you can place 1 card with X-Antibody from your hand under its sources to delete up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon with play cost less than or equal to the amount of this Digimon's Digivolution cards. So meaning that if there's 5 Digimon that is X-Antibody underneath Dorugoramon, you can delete 2 of your opponent's Digimon that are play cost 5 or less, which is really good. And sometimes you can get really wild with your stacks and build such a huge one, which is why this card is just so awesome and extremely powerful when you do pull off those combos, which is very easy to do so. Next up, we have 3 Alphamons right here. Alphamon is your secondary level 6 of this deck, and I like to play 3 copies because it basically serves as a defensive tool, essentially. Sometimes when you think about the ratio, we actually have 7 level 6s at the moment and 7 level 5s, which can be kind of inconsistent. But actually having more copies of Alphamon in your deck actually provides a bit more consistency. First of all, it is also an X-Antibody itself, which basically blends in very well with the deck. And secondly, because it is an X-Antibody Digimon, you can easily very slide this underneath into your stacks to give it extra sources when you don't have any other options to do so, and having more Alphamon really helps you with that. And the reason why I mentioned earlier why it's a very good defensive card, it's because it basically has a security effect where if it pops out at the security at the end of battle, you add this card to your hand, and then afterwards, if there's a Royal Knight or X-Antibody Digimon on either field, essentially, you basically up to 12 of your opponent's Digimon cannot attack for the rest of the turn, which is really good. And it basically comes out very clutch in those security scenarios, and basically your opponent won't be able to try to go for game-winning plays, which gives them the surprise. Once again, it has when attacking its effect where you can manipulate the DP, which is very nice and comes in handy every now and then. And then also end of attack, you get to gain the 2 memory, which is very versatile of a card in general. That's it for the level 6s. Let's move on to level 7s. Right here we have the 2 Omnimon Zord defeats right here. I think Omnimon Zord defeat is just much more reliable. I really like the security aspect of it being able to come out, because once it does, you have a load of advantage and you can really win much harder and put your opponent in a much more difficult situation, and you can pressure for game very easily with it. Not only that, you can simply in times you can digivolve this over your Dorugoramons or your level 6s in general to delete one of your opponent's Tamers. And since because it's a hybrid meta, there's a lot of Tamers going on. I know there's way too many Tamers to handle at this moment, but however, deleting even one sometimes can really help you in those clutch situations, which is why I prefer Omnimon Zord defeat. And I know many of you guys probably who saw this build before as well, we play Chaosmon, and we'll actually get to talk about Chaosmon in the side deck part, but that's it for the level 7s. Let's talk about Tamers now. We have to have 4 copies of Coda, basically 4 copies. This deck is all about consistency and all about maximizing searching. It's going to be very, very simple. Basically, he's your memory tamer, starts you at 3, on play you reveal top 4, and you get to add 1 X-Antibody among the revealed into your hand and place the remaining to the bottom. Simple as that, and just really, really good. You need to maximize this so you can keep searching, getting your sources to build your stack faster and faster. So that's it for the tamer. Now next, we're going to move into the options, and we're going to talk even more about searching. We're not backing down on it. We're just going to keep maximizing, so where right here, we basically have 3 black memory boosts. Basically on play on the main, we get to basically reveal top 4, add 1 black Digimon to our hand, offering the delay to get extra 2 memory, helping us to make even more plays. And that's really crucial when it comes to doing our Grumblemon combo, which I do show you guys towards the end afterwards. So 4 copies is a must. Lastly, the tech, the spice, or the really powerful option right here. It's not even a tech actually. You play 4 copies of Final Zubagon Punch, and you must play 4 copies of this option no matter what. It basically does a whole bunch of things. One of your Digimon gets 3000 DP until the end of your opponent's next turn. Then if that Digimon has 16,000 or more DP, it gains reboot, blocker, and security +1 until the end of your opponent's next turn. Your Dorugoramon is always consistently at 13,000 DP, really easily, and playing the Final Zubagon Punch along with it gives you the massive power to basically swing for all of their checks, which is why this is really, really important. Really good combo. It's also security effect. You basically add it back to your hand, so it's very consistent. You want to see this card as soon as possible when you do have your Dorugoramon. You need that combo to pull off essentially. And once again, we'll show you guys once we get into the combos. So that will wrap up for all our tamers and the options, and that will be the 50 card deck right here. We do have a side deck to showcase you guys, so I do want to quickly show you guys where I first off have 2 Cherubimons in the side deck right here. Quickly want to mention back to our rookies earlier, if your opponent is playing a lot of memory gaining stuff in general, you need to maximize your Cherubimon. We already have 2 right here in the main deck, so the other 2 cards I can easily flex out is the Toy Agumon right here. Take out those 2 Toy Agumons to play a full 4 line of Cherubimons right there, easy peasy. Next we have Chaosmon right here. We did talk about Chaosmon a little bit earlier when we were talking about our level 7 end board. Originally the build actually has 3 Chaosmons, and I think that was a bit too much. Chaosmon is very expensive to digivolve, and often enough you're gonna have to pass your opponent to 6 memory. However, it does offer its great utility in terms of extra further removal and extra power, simply because it has piercing, and when digivolving it's very similar to like a Blitz Omni, where you get to unsuspend and basically swing over one of your opponent's unsuspended Digimon essentially, and then basically get to do piercing checks, and you can blow out all their security securities really nicely. Especially against yellow hybrids, it's really nice because your full combo check with Dorugoramon will not be able to take out all their security easily, but having Chaosmon topping off and then being able to swing again, you can pop off even more security afterwards. So I think Chaosmon is a very good substitute when depending on your matchup to basically swap out your Zord defeat when you need to. So that's just Chaosmon right there. Next up, we have removal cards, removal options. We have Brave Metal. This is the built-in archetype removal. Main, basically delete one of your opponent's Digimon with play cost 6 or less. But if you have a Digimon with 5 or more Digivolution sources and it's also X-Antibody, you can delete any Digimon on the board on your opponent's side that is not X-Antibody essentially. So right now, X-Antibody deck is very unique by itself at this moment, so you can easily just pop anything. That is your top end removal, and for the cost of 5, it's just very nice. And then now for the lower end removal, I like to play one AVAULT Swarmer because there's a lot of low end stuff. Your opponent will have like Bokomons, hybrid searchers sitting there in the most of the cases, and they're just not really doing anything. And then if you're able to basically pull off the AVAULT Swarmer, and mainly because you only focus on one stack, you don't really get punished as hard when you play AVAULT Swarmer because your Dorugoramon is 11 cost, but everything else that's 7 cost or less is basically blown up, which gives you a lot of comeback potential and advantages to sort of push for removal. These are the 5 cards I like to do for my side deck though. Alright, now let's talk about the game plan of how you want to combo and play this deck along with basically the full stack combo. Early stages of the game, if you have Dorugoramon, you basically want to hard play your Dorugoramon and basically get your searching as fast as possible. Search for your Kodas, search for your X-Antibodies, and you want to play your Kodas as soon as you see them as well, so then you can start having 3 memory at the beginning of your every turn. What you really always want to prioritize, if you have Tsunorizumon, instantly just Digivolve it on top of Dorugoramon. It will basically guarantee you the extra security +1 for your Dorugoramon. Next up, moving to your level 4s, you have options. You have these 2 guys that you want to Digivolve on top of. It really doesn't matter which one. If you want to go for Dark Tyrannomon for the 1 cheap cost, that's great, that's fantastic. But also times, I actually like to go for Dorugoramon because this helps us secure the 13,000 DP threshold first. And that's actually really important as we're building our stack. And the next thing is we're now going to our level 5s, our 2 options. Ideally, you would think Dorugoramon would be the one to stack, but actually MagnaGarurumon might be the better one, simply because Dorugoramon can be easily added from your hand and slide it into the source later on. So I would actually rather usually go for MagnaGarurumon. However, Dorugoramon is still just as important. If you have multiple copies in your hand, feel free to go ahead and go for Dorugoramon. Don't push out your level 5, never ever. This is a big stack deck. You gotta safely build your stack in your raising area. Now that we got our level 5 set up and ready to go, let's talk about pulling off the combo. Your Koda is gonna give you memory at 3 regardless, right there. And this is when you have to decide, because you have Dorugoramon in your hand. What you gotta decide is whether you can have 2 options. First is whether you can push out, Digivolve Dorugoramon on top, and then basically go for the attacks and swings. Now, this is really important, the most pivotal decision in the game for you as the Dorugoramon or as the X-Antibody player right here, because you will need to analyze the board state, you would need to recognize your matchup right there and find out the situation that you're in. If your opponent has a lot of Digimon and they're really wide and they need to be popped because you might be in threat in the next turn, then it will be wise to push this out and basically Digivolve the Dorugoramon right here on top, swing in and use its effects to stack. Now, if it's not, ideally, you actually just want to Digivolve Dorugoramon inside your raising area. This is a big stack deck. Once you lose your stack, it's all over basically. So you got to be really cautious and extremely careful on how you play this. But let's just say ideally, we Digivolve Dorugoramon in our raising area, we go to 0 and we just play something else and pass to our opponent. Now back to our turn once again. We're at 3, we're safe, we're ready to go. This is when we want to push out Dorugoramon. Now, that's why having that extra 3 memory is really crucial, because I'm going to explain to you right now. You want to play your final Zubagon Punch first. Go down to 1, right here. Instantly, your Dorugoramon will gain Reboot, Blocker, and Security +1. Meaning that it has Reboot, your MagnaGarurumon will give it another Security +1. Now, you swing in. You slide in your Dorugoramon. Right here. Once you slide in your Dorugoramon, your Dorugoramon is now currently massive, and you'll basically beat everything in the security, except for options maybe. Who knows? Gaia Force, if you hit one, then it's over. Anyways, in most cases in this format, you don't really see it as often. So right now, Dorugoramon, let's recalculate. We got 1, 2, and 3 X-Antibodies. So that's extra 3000 DP, making it 14. Dorugoramon gives another extra, so you're basically at 16. Final Zubagon Punch gives you another 3000. You're at 19 right now. 19 DP, 19k DP with 1 security check, 2 security checks, 3 security checks, 4 with Final Zubagon, and then the 1 final one itself with Dorugora. That's basically 5 checks combo right there, and this is how you want to pull it off usually. And once you're done with that, you basically take out all your opponent's security, and if you have another extra rookie on the board, which is fantastic, you can swing for game right here. If not, in many cases, you might have a black memory boost on the board, which can really help you, which is really nice, and then you want to go for the Grumblemon play. Also, in some other situations, sometimes you may have a Dorumon underneath your source already, meaning that if you slide it under, you have gained your memory, and you already have your 2 memories set up for the Grumblemon final play, push out, and then basically go for a game right here. So that's basically it with the combo. It's relatively straightforward, but there's a lot of key aspects that you have to make sure you've fulfilled and you've analyzed and make sure before doing so, because once you commit to your combo, it's all or nothing at that point, and you gotta have to push to win. And then sometimes in certain situations, if you can't go for a game and you have to extend the game with the Dorugoramon, then sometimes you can Digivolve on top of a Zord into Zord defeat and take out a Tamer to slow down the opponent's plays. Or you can even have to remove more Digimon on their board. You can go into the Chaosmon, which you may have sideboarded already, to take out another Digimon that they have to get your advantage on the board. So then your next turn, you're going to go for those games. And the really cool thing about this deck is sometimes you may not be able to pull off the one-shot combo in that turn, which is totally okay, which is why Final Zubagon Punch is such a good card, because it will give your Dorugoramon reboot, and it will also be a blocker until the end of your opponent's turn. So you have a bit of defensive play, making it difficult for your opponent to try to swing for game at you, and then next turn you can go back at them. With the reboot blocker, your Dorugoramon will basically be at 14,000 DP with the final Zubagon Punch, and also with Dorugoramon it will go up to 15,000 DP, which is quite still a massive Digimon for this current meta, unless you're facing other big stack decks essentially. And that will basically wrap up for the full combo right here. Now I'll conclude for my very own deck building strategy and in-depth guide for the Black X-Antibody improved version. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, be sure to share it with everyone in the comments down below. We got lots more deck profiles coming up real soon, so be sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned. Once again, if you haven't seen our latest Battle of Next Adventure series, go check it out right now. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. This is Vault, signing